Hey guys, I didn't know if y'all was gonna come. I was like, okay, well, maybe I'll just do this in the morning. Okay, well, I'm glad. You guys think I am Coco and Shay B, because baby, if they hadn't tapped in, this was setting it up for in the morning. Because I was like, Bougie Gang's out on the town. For nice dinners and hanging out. I didn't know I didn't know what everybody was doing, what fam was doing tonight. Okay. All right, we're gonna get into it. Hey, Messy. Hey, Mel. Messy. You're at the Drew Hill concert. Somebody's sleeping private. Drew Hill used to be it. I'm sure they still are. Leandra, thank you for gifting a friend. Okay, you guys asked for I guess this has been like Bougie Gang asked for it week, because you guys asked for it and I said, you know me, why not, right? All I need is someone, you know what I mean? Like, y'all ask for it. If I can do it, I will. Anyway, one of you guys mentioned today that Shawn Hoover was in court, and we looked up the case. This is a situation that happened. Um, you know what? I downloaded the indictment. I'll post it in Patreon if you guys want to look at it. It girl, it's an 11-page indictment. It's a whole damn gang. I don't want to say it's a RICO, but it's a gang multi-defendant situation. Anyway, one of the defendants, from what I understand, already pled guilty, took a plea deal, took 40, do 20. And apparently this guy, Hoover's client, is allegedly the shooter. Okay. So it's a murder charge along with a host of other charges. Do I still have Fulton County pulled up? Girl, I had it pulled up a minute ago. Of course it logged me out. Why wouldn't it, right? Since they got hacked last year, if you can't even finish a sneeze and you're logged out. Hold on. It's a lot of charges. Let me see. Hold on. Let me give Leandra gifted a friend. Period. If you got gifted by Leandra, make sure to let her know. Okay. And if you've never been a member before, there's a lot of content for you. Go ahead and jump right on in. Stuff you have not seen if you've never been a member. If you've been a member and this is a renew for you, a free month, well, congratulations and enjoy. It's been a few days since I've gone live, so I'm sure I'll be going live this weekend in members. So if you've been considering doing members, get into it. All right, let me look up homie's information. His name is Julian Conley, and it's a pretty extensive situation here, very serious. He's been in jail since 2021, so Nesto has no room to be singing the blues over there, because he is not the only person who has been sitting in jail on some no bail. Okay. Sir has an extensive situation, as you can see: murder, felony murder, felony murder. You know what I'm saying? I mean, this is a mess. Aggravated assault, deadly weapon, all of the things you guys want to talk about on a Friday night. This is all him. Violation of street gang, terrorism, girl, possession of a firearm, knife, a mess, just a mess. It's giving drive-by shooting or just unfortunate set of circumstances where a little girl got caught in some crossfire. Um, and it's very unfortunate, or maybe they shot at the car directly. I'm not really sure. There was some street violence going on, some protests, and for whatever reason this little girl was out in the middle of it with her family, and maybe they turned down the wrong street, they didn't know what was going on. It's just an unfortunate set of circumstances. But this is Shawn Hoover's client, which, he's a public defender. He may not have a lot of choices in who he gets to defend. It is what it is. How old is he? Hold on. I'll tell you. I'm not going to show it because, girl, the algorithm treats me a certain type of way. It's X'd out on his jacket, but it might say it in something else. Let me go look. Hold on. Let me look on his it might say it somewhere else on his original. Let's get into it because the opening statements are roughly about a half an hour and a half or so, and we can get into, as long as you guys are cool, I'm cool. If y'all start to drop off, then we might resume it tomorrow. If it's interesting, I don't mind running through and getting this caught up because I don't believe that they're done yet. If you guys are into this, if we're just checking out Shawn Hoover and his attorney stylings, what he's working with, then we can skip through. But if this seems to be, it's going to be something potentially interesting. So let's see. I'm going to look up his birthday and everything while we get started. So get your popcorn, get your dinner, get your snack, get in the recliner, go put your comfy pajamas on, do all the things, throw me up on the TV, hit the like button, stimulate the algorithm, and let's get into it, okay?
And that expert testified as to its trajectory.
Okay, well, we'll go looking for transcripts and see what we can find out. This is the difficulty of my being the third judge in the case. I just don't know.
And I was present on that day during part of that hearing.
So they're having some conversation. Okay, let's just go all the way to the stamp. Why not? This happened. This is opening statements. This happened 2 days ago on the 17th. So they had the 17th, the 18th. So we're only 3 days in. So it'll be continuing into next week. I don't know how long they project for this trial to go. If they're going to keep it cute and be almost done next week, we might be able to get caught up this weekend. Like I said, I don't mind as long as y'all are here. You know, I'm gonna speed this up a little bit. Okay, hello, empty courtroom. Okay. Okay, sir, in a burgundy suit. And burgundy tie.
Witness 1, 2, and 3. Those are names that aren't found in any reciprocal discovery provided by defense counsel or any discovery that had been previously served by the state.
Okay, who are witnesses 1, 2, and 3?
Witness number 1 is Miss Kamisha Griffin. Witness number 2 is Miss Cassandra Salloway. And then witness number 3 is Mr. Todd Crosby from Fall Line Forensics, LLC.
An expert witness?
That's the state's assumption. I know, Your Honor. Obviously, there's the statute for discovery, 1716-4, as it relates to witnesses to be served, the timeliness for witnesses to be served by defense counsel, especially as it relates to expert witnesses and expert reports and things of that nature.
I almost feel like as far as age is concerned, when they do the opening statement, they're going to say, Mr. Conley is 20 years old and he's a longtime resident or lifelong resident. You know what I mean? They're probably going to give a little biography backstory. So, but I'm going to look for it in any case, but I'm going to try it and not stop the flow.
Found in that code section. In addition, Your Honor, on May 8th of this year, Your Honor filed an order specially setting this case for trial, outlining the specifics and the requirements from each party as it relates to turning over expert witnesses and any additional motions, minus any motions in limine, which can be made at any time, either in writing or orally. So as it relates to those three witnesses, especially witness number 3 listed, not only in violation of the discovery statute, but also the court order that was filed on the 8th day of May 2025.
So for those 3 witnesses, 1 through 3, you've never received any notice?
Correct.
Okay.
State's asking for them to be excluded.
Okay.
Well, a couple of things very briefly, Your Honor. As far as witness number 1, is that Mr. Crosby?
Griffin.
Number 3, I'm sorry,
Oh.
Crosby. He is a witness that testified at a previous hearing, and the state is fully aware of him. They have his information, his resume. They know all about him, and they've known about him for quite some time now. So there is no issue in terms of surprise. That cannot legitimately be argued when they talk to him and they've seen him testify in this very matter before. As to witnesses 1 and 2, a couple things. I guess on Monday when we started, I think that was Monday, the question I asked the court was that we recently learned that the state re-indicted this case in August of this year, and I believe that was filed on September 5th of this year. So I asked, are we proceeding under the old case or the new case? And the state indicated that we are proceeding under the new case. So based on that case having been re-indicted within the last 2 weeks thereabout, the notice of those 2 witnesses is timely. It is 5 days prior to when we'd be calling them as witnesses. And if the state would like, we'd love for them to have the opportunity to speak with them prior, and we would accommodate them. But we are here to prove this man's innocence, and we have witnesses who can do that. So the remedy would not be to exclude anybody. The remedy would be to accommodate their communication, and we'll do that as well. So we ask that none of the 3 be excluded, Your Honor.
Okay, I'm going to take it under advisement, but in the meantime, make those witnesses available to the state.
Okay,
They
that's
wish to
my
interview
bad
them.
because I'm trying to go through these documents
And
real
is that
quick to
correct?
find his
Do you
birthday.
want to respond
I mean,
in terms of the expert witness?
in terms of the expert witness, I don't know of any hearing in which he testified in. If that happened, none of the 3 of us were present at that time during the testimony of that.
Okay, that's what I wanted to look up. So before I rule, I'll look at all that. When do you think he testified?
He testified in the hearing, Mr. Abadi was present, and that was before Judge Shawn.
Schwab.
And it dealt with the state having gotten rid of the piece of evidence that could have conclusively been exculpating. They got rid of the car. We had a hearing about them having gotten rid of the car, and that was before Judge Shawn. And that expert testified as to trajectory.
Okay, well, we'll go looking for transcripts and see what we can find out. This is the difficulty of my being the 3rd judge in the case. I just don't know.
And I was present on that day during part of that hearing, so that's not untrue that I was there, but if this witness testified, I was not present during that time.
Okay, I'll see what I can find.
All right, thank you, Your Honor.
Okay. Do we have an update on the tech? We're good? Okay. All right, anything else we need to take up before the jury comes out? Okay. All right, so we're ready for the jury.
And we would like them both to rule, Your Honor.
Okay, if there's any witnesses present, it's time to step out. Be sure not to discuss your testimony with anyone of the lawyers who are going to be questioning you. Do we have any witnesses in the courtroom as far as the state knows?
The only witnesses is
Okay.
the mother who will be testifying, but.
There's an exception for her. That's true. Yes, come on up.
I mean, I'm gonna have to look up his friend's deal, but I would be worried from a standpoint of he just got a plea deal for 20 years and 40 to do 20 and not being the shooter, and they're putting the shooting on him of an 8-year-old baby. So he's in deep trouble right now. I'd be worried too.
Two counts of felony murder, 5 counts of aggravated assault, criminal damage to property, 2 counts of possession of a firearm, 5 counts of Georgia, and affirm your trial earlier than 5 o'clock. Okay, before we go any further, I need on business without getting your permission first, because I know some of you have childcare issues. So typically you can count on business hours or a little earlier than 5 o'clock. Okay, before we go any further, I need to give you your trial juror oath. Will you all stand and raise your right hands? Do you solemnly swear or affirm that you shall well and truly try the issue formed upon this bill of indictment between the state of Georgia and Julian Conley, who is charged with murder, 2 counts of felony murder, 5 counts of aggravated assault, criminal damage to property, 2 counts of possession of a firearm during the commission of a felony, and 8 counts of violation of Street Gang Terrorism and Prevention Act, and a true verdict to give according to the evidence. So help you God. Please say yes if you accept this oath.
Yes.
Thank you. You can be seated. As I warned you previously, there are going to be times that I'm reading you jury instructions. If you are a person who has benefited by taking notes, you can, but just understand at the end of trial, after all of the evidence and after all of the arguments, you're going to receive a written jury charge. So don't feel that you need to transcribe the instructions that I give you. Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, you've been sworn in and paneled, and you're about to try a criminal case entitled The State of Georgia versus Julian Conley. The prosecutor read the indictment during jury selection, and you will have it during deliberations. The defendant has pled not guilty to this indictment, and he denies every charge in it. This indictment and the defendant's plea of not guilty present the issue that you have been selected and sworn to decide. The indictment is the way that the defendant is charged with committing crimes that violate the laws of Georgia. The charges in the indictment and the plea of not guilty are not evidence of guilt, and you may not conclude that the defendant is guilty based upon the charges or the not guilty plea. The defendant is presumed to be innocent until he is proven guilty. The defendant begins the trial with a presumption of innocence in his favor, and this presumption stays with him until it is overcome by the state with evidence that convinces you beyond a reasonable doubt that the defendant is guilty of the crimes charged. You may not convict the defendant of any crime unless each element of the crime is proved beyond a reasonable doubt. The burden of proof is on the state to prove every essential element of the crimes charged in the indictment beyond a reasonable doubt. The defendant has no burden of proof at all, and the burden never shifts to the defendant to prove his innocence. However, the state is not required to prove the guilt of the defendant beyond all doubt or to a mathematical certainty. A reasonable doubt means just what it says. It is the doubt of a fair-minded, impartial juror who is honestly seeking the truth. It is the doubt based upon common sense and reason. It does not mean a vague or arbitrary doubt, but it is a doubt for which you can give a reason based on consideration of the evidence or a lack of evidence, a conflict in the evidence, or any combination of these. My role is to determine the law that applies to this case. I will instruct you on the law that you must apply to the facts in reaching a verdict. I'm giving you some of these instructions now. I will give you more detailed instructions at the end of the trial. You must decide the facts of this case from the evidence presented and then apply the law that I give you to those facts. Evidence is how a fact is proved or disproved. Evidence can be either testimony or exhibits. Testimony is what you hear from people who take the witness stand and swear to tell the truth. However, the questions the lawyers ask the witness are not evidence. Exhibits are documents, photographs, and other physical items that are admitted during trial. I will admit evidence according to the rules of evidence. The lawyers are advocates for their clients, and they have a duty to represent their clients to the best of their ability. They must follow the rules of law, trial procedure, and evidence during the trial. They may make motions or objections if they believe that any rule is not being followed. What the lawyers say in making or responding to objections is not evidence. If the lawyers make objections and I overrule it, that means that the evidence is admitted and you may consider it. If I sustain an objection, this means the evidence is excluded from the trial and you may not consider it. You should consider only the testimony and only those exhibits that are admitted. You should not assume or infer anything about the evidence which I have excluded. If you happen to hear or see evidence that I end up excluding from the trial, you must disregard it entirely in your deliberations and in arriving at your verdict. None of my decisions and nothing I say during the trial are evidence. Sometimes I may need to deal with the lawyer's motions or objections without you being here in the courtroom, so I will excuse you to the jury room. We'll try to limit such interruptions, and we ask you to please be patient when they do happen. This is the part where I always tell you guys you're going to be mad at us through most of this trial. We're going to have a lot of conferences where we need to send you out. We're going to tell you it's going to be about 10 minutes and then it's going to be 20. So please understand that we're doing our best and we're being as efficient as possible, but know that you are going to be removed more often than you like. And that's just part of trial. Okay. The trial will proceed as follows. First, the attorneys may give what are called opening statements. Opening statements are not evidence. The state goes first because they have the burden of proof. Second, the evidence will be presented. Third, the attorneys may give closing arguments. They may also point out evidence they believe supports their position. What the lawyers say in closing arguments is not evidence. Fourth, I will explain to you the specific law that applies to this case. I will then ask you to go to the jury room to deliberate and reach your verdict. It's important that you pay close attention during this trial. If you cannot hear or see any evidence, or if you are suffering from any discomfort that distracts you, please inform me or the deputy, and we will do what is needed to make sure that you can hear and see the evidence and give it your undivided attention. If you need a break at any time, please raise your hand, alert the deputy, or simply just catch my eye. You must decide this case based only on the evidence admitted during the trial and the law that I will explain to you. You may not conduct any research on your own about this case or about any people or places mentioned during the trial. You may not visit places mentioned in the evidence. You may not use any outside sources such as dictionaries, Google, social media, ChatGPT to get information about this case. You may not use any outside sources to research legal terms or the law. Finally, you may not read or listen to any accounts of this trial that may appear on your computer, your phone, in print, or on the radio. So anything that's in the media while you're in this trial, you need to disregard and avoid. You may not discuss this case with anyone, including family and friends, or let anyone discuss the case with you or around you. This includes discussing or sharing information on social media. You must not discuss this case even amongst yourselves until the actual deliberations begin. That is, after you have heard all the evidence, arguments, and the law that applies to this case. You have pens and notepads. Please keep in mind, you may take notes. If you take notes, please do not let your note-taking distract you from paying attention. You may not share or discuss your notes with anyone until you start deliberating at the end of the case. And notes are not evidence, they're only memory aids. They are not more important than your own impression or memory of what the evidence may have been. While you may consider another juror's notes to refresh your memory, you should rely on your own memory of the proceedings. Don't be influenced by the notes of other jurors unless their notes help you in determining your own independent memory. You must leave your notes in the jury room, except when you're in the courtroom. My staff will destroy your notes at the end of deliberations. You'll get a transcript. You will not. This is important because it's not television. You will not get a transcript of witnesses' testimony, so you must remember in a way that works best for you what they said on the witness stand. This concludes my preliminary instructions, and we're now ready for the lawyers to give their opening statements. So let's have a sound check right now. Who had any trouble hearing me just now? All right, and you know what to do if you do, because it's critical that you guys hear. So if you can't hear the lawyers or you can't hear the witness, it's okay to interrupt and let us know that. All right. Is the state going to make an opening statement?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay. That goes for the screen too. If you can't see the screen, let us know.
I don't know what that was.
Good morning. So what's your one thing that you're gonna see throughout this trial is that the technology in Fulton County is not stellar, it's not the best, and it's not the most high-tech equipment. So at times, you're going to experience along with us, lags, and in this instance, PowerPoint is we click from slide to slide, lags as we play videos. So we just ask you to remain patient. I know a lot of you guys either in IT or have spouses, family members, and friends who are in IT, so you're used to the fastest and the best. You're in the wrong place for that. So I'll apologize on behalf of all the parties in advance. 8 bullets. 8 holes, defects from bullets in the vehicle that Secoriea Turner was seated in the back seat laying on her phone. 8 bullets fired into the Jeep that Mr. Omar Ivory was driving, that her mom, Shawn Turner, was seated in the front passenger seat. And little 8-year-old Secoriea Turner seated in the back seat, doing what 8-year-olds do, playing on a cell phone, looking at TikTok. No one knew that on July 4th of 2020, as this vehicle that Secoriea was playing, had a great day celebrating the 4th of July, would be the last day that she'd be alive. No one knew that this would be the last moment that Secoriea Turner would get to play on TikTok, would get to make a TikTok, would be the last moments that her mother, Charmaine Turner, would hear her laugh. When they woke up that morning, they had no idea that these would be the last moments that she'd ever spend with her 8-year-old. And why? Because the conscious, intentional, and deliberate actions of this defendant on July 4th of 2020, when he consciously and intentionally pointed his rifle AR style firearm at the Jeep as it traveled around what you'll learn and hear about throughout this trial, a makeshift barricade blocked off by large orange blocks and orange cones that we see on the roads for construction. When the Jeep that Secoriea Turner did not submit to the authority of this defendant and his gang members, he intentionally pointed and pulled the trigger of this AR-15 style rifle, firing it into the vehicle that Secoriea was just trying to get home. Get home and continue to celebrate the 4th of July, that fellowship with her family like we all do on the 4th of July, celebrating America and fireworks and fun. But that all ended because of the acts of this defendant. One bullet traveled through the back of this Jeep, traveled through the trunk, traveled through the seat, and traveled into the back of 8-year-old Secoriea Turner. Killing her on July 4th, 2020, having 8 short years of life with her family, with her friends, her hopes and dreams of being a student at Spelman ended in those few moments. Now, what you're going to learn through the course of this trial, through the evidence in the show, is that little Secoriea, she loved to dance, she loved to play on TikTok, she loved to make TikToks, she was happy, she was full of life, she was full of joy. She loved to read, she loved to learn. And because she loved to read and learn, she had already decided that she wanted to be a student at Spelman. She would talk to her mom all the time about how excited, even though she was 8, that she was going to college at Spelman here in Atlanta. She loved her family. all of that came to an end because of the senseless gun violence, the senseless, deliberate actions of this defendant when he fired his rifle into the vehicle that Secoriea was traveling in. Now, I want to talk to you. We covered some of this yesterday and the day before on Monday about the summer of 2020 and what was going on not only throughout the country, but specifically here in Atlanta. It was a time that most of us had never experienced. It was an unprecedented time. It was a time where we were going through a global pandemic. We were experiencing surges during the summer of COVID-19. In conjunction with that, we were experiencing civil unrest because of protests that were supporting, rightfully so, racial injustice, trying to fight for change. But during the summer of 2020, as we moved into July 4th, at 1238 Pryor Road near the Wendy's, Shawn Brooks was shot and killed. And as a result of him being killed, that Wendy's the next day on June 13th was burned out. As many of you had heard, we talked about it yesterday and the day before about what we remembered, what we read, the information we had processed as it relates to what happened to Mr. Brooks. And as a result of the shooting and the death of Mr. Brooks, there were protests throughout the city of Atlanta. There were protests specifically at the Wendy's where he was killed. And as we all are aware, that Wendy's was burned out. And that Wendy's, that area, 1238 Pryor Road, the intersection of University and Pryor, became a hub or a place where protests would happen often, where people would come to gather and support each other. But that changed as time moved on, as time continued. It became more focused on things of violence, things that led to the death of little Secoriea Turner. And what you're going to see and what you're going to learn throughout this trial, you're tired of seeing maps and we're going to talk about locations. This is the general location we asked you about yesterday. We talked about how you're familiar with it, how often you've been driven by it, and things of that nature. This is the package store, which will be central to the facts and the evidence, as well as the DP, the area where the Wendy's was, and further down where you can see that there are warehouses on University Avenue. Now, as we move through the trial and as the evidence and the testimony unfolds, you're going to hear about on July 4th the conditions and the description of what 1238 Pryor Road, the intersection with University, looked like, what the conditions were, the people who were out there. You're going to hear about the fact that the police had coined the term or called this an autonomous zone, where during this time, the defendant and members of his gang had taken advantage of the fact that there was minimal police presence due to the unrest as it relates to police brutality and things of that nature. And what you're going to learn, what we talked about, is that they set up a barricade, a checkpoint, an armed checkpoint in this community, in your community, making it to where they controlled everything. They controlled the authority of who could come and go and pass based on the blockades and barricades they had set up. They were armed with firearms to control and to assert their authority. And what you'll see, and as you will find out, when you don't submit that authority, there's consequences. And Secoriea Turner paid those consequences because Omar Ivory, a member of this community, had the audacity, in their eyes, to not submit to their authority, to not allow them to control his egress and ingress. He went around the barricades, and as a result, they shot into his car. You're going to see video surveillance. You're going to see a lot of photographs. These are examples of what the barricades look like. The large orange blocks, the construction cones that we see, unfortunately, all around the courthouses. We all travel the next couple of days here and back. Now, you're going to hear from a lot of witnesses who are going to be able to describe the conditions of July 4th, 2020. Members of this community, employees and people who work in the area. You're going to hear from Gerald Kembler, who is a individual, a male who's been a MARTA bus driver at this time. He had worked with MARTA and was very familiar with the city and drove many routes throughout the city. On July 4th of 2020, his route included the University and Pryor Road area and stops. He's going to talk about the barricades that he experienced, the having to ask permission to move throughout the city in that area, that he saw individuals armed with rifles that he was forced to stop. And the only way he could ever get through is if he asked permission, and he was granted that permission. You're also going to hear from members of that community, Chris and Samantha McCord. And you're going to hear about their experience on July 4th of 2020, when they attempted just to go home, just like Secoriea and her family, just to get across the barriers right over the second blockade where their home was. And they were denied access. Chris and Samantha McCord are going to talk about the fear that they felt, the anger that they felt, that they couldn't go to their home and their community that they had invested in, that they loved, that these people were preventing them from enjoying what they helped build and create. You're going to hear from Mr. McCord and Mrs. McCord to tell you that the firearms that the individuals, to include the defendant, pointed at their heads and at their vehicle, as they told them they weren't allowed to pass through. How they told Mr. McCord he was acting disrespectful, and how they made Mr. McCord turn around. What you're going to learn is shortly after the McCords were not granted access is when Secoriea and her family were driving in the area. What Charmaine and Mr. Omar are going to tell you is that they had spent the day with family. They had spent the day having fun, 4th of July, at Miss Turner's mother's house, that the family had gathered. They barbecued. They had shot off fireworks. They did what most people do on the 4th of July. And that they were coming home roughly a little after 9:30, and they got off at Pryor Road and University Avenue, exit off I-75. And they got up there, because their home was not far from it, and they needed to stop at the local package store, the All-American package store. And as they drove up to the intersection, Mr. Ivory will tell you that in looking at it, he believed it was closed. He saw that some of the windows were dark and boarded up. So he didn't stop there, is what Ms. Turner and Mr. Ivory will tell you. And what they'll tell you is they were going to go home. And their house was on the other side of the barricades, and they hadn't encountered the barricades before. They saw them, and Mr. Ivory will tell you that as he approached the area where the barricades were, he went around, he didn't stop, he went around the first barricade, and as soon as he did that, there was gunfire at his feet. They'll tell you the fear that they felt. They will tell you the moments in which the gunfire is entering their vehicle, going past their heads and their bodies, and how they survived by the grace of God. And what they'll both tell you, and what Charmaine will tell you, is in the moments as the gunfire is occurring, she hears her daughter cry out, "Mama, Mama, I've been shot." She hears her 8-year-old little girl sitting in the back seat on their way home scream her name for the very last time. Because of the deliberate actions of this defendant, because someone had the audacity not to stop at this unlawful barricade, at this unlawful checkpoint. What both Ms. Turner and Mr. Ivory will tell you is they made it past the second barricade. They pulled over shortly down the road to attend to Secoriea. Ms. Turner will tell you that she dove into the back seat. She will tell you that she did everything in her power to keep her daughter alive, to try to stop the bleeding, to do whatever she could do to provide any medical assistance to keep the little 8-year-old with her. What both Mr. Ivory and Ms. Turner will tell you is they attempted to call 911. At that time, 911 was experiencing a high volume of calls. And Mr. Ivory will tell you that he called, and couldn't get through. He will tell you that as he was making the decision to stay where he was and continue to call 911 or to go to the nearest hospital. And what he'll tell you is he kept calling 911 and he eventually got through, but his instincts, his gut told him he couldn't wait. So while he's on the phone with 911, and you'll hear he's talking and walking them through the fact that they're driving to the hospital. And he's taking little Secoriea to the Atlanta Medical Center. He's doing everything in his power as her mother attempts to try to stop the bleeding, trying to keep Secoriea away. Now, the evidence will show, and you'll hear from officers and detectives, that Mr. Omar did arrive at Atlanta Medical Center. When he arrived, he was followed by an officer who was close in the area, who saw Mr. Ivory kind of speeding through the city, down Boulevard, and into Atlanta Medical Center. And you'll see and hear from this officer, you'll see his body cam, the urgency in which they arrived, and you'll see the moment that Secoriea is taken from the backseat. She's rushed into the emergency room. And what the evidence will show, the testimony will be, is that they tried everything medically possible to save this little girl. They tried everything. But nothing they did could stop, could fix what this defendant did, this little girl. You will hear Charmaine and Mr. Ivory on the moments when they find out that Secoriea didn't make it. She was never going home. That they were going to be leaving the Atlanta Medical Center without their 8-year-old little girl. And Ms. Turner will tell you how awful that moment was, how it changed her life and her family's life forever. How nothing has ever been the same since Secoria's death. You will hear from additional officers who responded to the Atlanta Medical Center because of the call of little Secoriea arriving with a gunshot wound to the back. You will hear from Sex from the Homicide Unit, how the investigation began, how Sergeant Epps was the first officer with the City of Atlanta Police Department to arrive right behind Mr. Ivory, Ms. Turner, and little Secoriea, and how he notified homicide, and how the investigation began, unfolded, and moved from the scene of where Secoriea died to the scene of where she was shot. Near the Wendy's, 1238 Prior Street. And what the evidence and testimony will show, and what will be admitted into evidence, as I said, 911 call, both from Mr. Ivory as well as from Mr. McCord and his wife. You will hear about statements witnesses made on the scene, and they'll testify in court about it. You will hear about the defendant's distinctive clothing, a very important piece of evidence as to how the detectives with the City of Atlanta Homicide Unit are able to track and identify this defendant. You will hear about the defendant's actions after the shooting. And you will hear about statements this defendant made with his counsel during the press conference shortly after Secoriea was murdered. Now, the timeline of events will be set up by the 911 call. That's where the chronology starts, relates to the investigation, and Detective Gary and Shepard, who was assigned as the lead detective in the homicide unit. And he will tell you he was able to locate the call at approximately at 9:45 p.m. from Mr. Report, referencing how he'd been held at gunpoint, how guns had been pointed at him and his wife's head at their vehicle. You will hear about the 911 call through Detective Shepard that he was able to locate that Omar made. And like I said, you hear about the hardest decision Mr. Ivory had to make in determining whether he should continue to try to get a hold of 911 or attempt to get the quickest medical care by driving Secoriea to the City of Atlanta, to the Atlanta Medical Center. You will also hear again, from Sergeant Epps, who will talk about how he saw the Jeep speeding, how he could tell based on the way that the car was driving and his training experience that this car was trying to get medical help as fast as possible. And Detective Shepard will talk about the first steps that he took after being assigned the lead detective in this case, how he attempted to canvass the scene and talk to witnesses, how the crime scene was photographed and processed, and evidence was collected. He will tell you, along with several crime scene vets that responded, about the area, and when they arrived, they had to move quickly through the scene because it wasn't safe. There were still members of community, there were still members of the violent protests that night with guns on the scene. So as they are focusing on processing the scene, they're also focused on their safety and making sure that they can do their job in the safest way possible for everybody still remaining out there. And Detective Shepard's going to tell you about the difficulty he had in canvassing and speaking to witnesses, the unwillingness of people to provide information, and how that affected his investigation. And how he had to move through his investigation in different ways and look for evidence in ways that he typically has not done in the past. He will tell you about his interview with Ms. Charmaine Turner that we talked about. He will tell you about his interview with Mr. Ivory. He will talk to you about his interactions with Mr. McCord and his experience that night on July 4th. He will also talk to you about the members of his team in the City of Atlanta Homicide Unit and how they assisted, and how members of Homeland Security, specifically you'll hear from Investigator T, how he assisted in the process, how he utilized all different units throughout the City of Atlanta Police Department in order to get justice for little 8-year-old Secoriea Turner. He started because of the resistance that he was receiving that night as it relates to witnesses speaking, as to finding people willing to make statements. He did a Be on the Lookout, a flyer that was distributed through the media, through news outlets, on social media, asking for anyone to come forward to assist in any information as it relates to the death of Secoriea Turner. He will tell you that he continued to receive information. He will tell you he continued to canvass the area for any video surveillance that could have captured anything that happened during the moments of Secoria's death. And what he'll tell you is that an assisting investigator with Homeland Security Investigator Jason T was able to recover and extract several hours of footage from the surrounding businesses through just doing knock and talk, asking for help as it relates to the owners of the All-American Package Store, the owners of the BP gas station, and a warehouse that was just past the area of the second half of the barricade, just past the area where Omar Ivory had pulled off to the side as everyone tried to save Secoriea. And what you will see and what you will hear about is the angles and the footage that was able to be recovered. And I know we're all used to CSI and all the other different crime scene shows that are on TV with our 4K and clear as ever video surveillance, rings that seem to capture, ring cameras that seem to capture everything, even if there isn't movement, even though they're supposed to be motion activated. But you will learn, ladies and gentlemen, that's TV. That the camera footage that we were able to locate as it relates to the moments before, during, and after Secoria's death is not 4K. It doesn't capture every angle on the scene. It doesn't capture outside of certain areas where the cameras don't reach. What you're going to notice is that the cameras are not as clear as it shows on Criminal Minds, capturing every angle and aspect of someone's face, clothing, and things of that nature. What Detective Shepard will tell you is that after Detective T was able to locate the video surveillance from the 3 businesses, he then watched hours of footage having to piece and connect the footage together so we could get a full 360, 180 view of certain angles so he could get justice for Secoriea. This is the view he was able to get from the BP gas station. And just on the left of the screen, it's just outside of this camera, would be the warehouse where he was able to pull video surveillance and pointed in the direction of the BP. That's what we're seeing here. So what Detective Shepard will talk to you about in his review and hours of review footage is he was able to locate the time in which the McCords pulled into the liquor store parking lot after they had experienced being held at gunpoint, after they had been told they couldn't come through, after they were made to turn around. And you'll see on the video surveillance, the McCords get out, confused, scared, wondering what happened, why they weren't able to move through. And you'll see the defendant in his distinctive clothing, his jeans with faded out areas on his thighs and down towards his shins. You'll see that he's in a distinctive red shirt with white writing. You will learn through witnesses that the writing on the back of the shirt talks about Piru Bloods, Elm Street. And you will learn the significance as it relates to that and this defendant being a member and associate of the Piru Bloods gang. Detective Shepard will tell you that in his review of the footage, he was able to locate two persons of interest at the beginning of the investigation that he identified. The defendant being the individual in the red, and then in the white t-shirt and the black jeans, the co-defendant, Mr. Jerry McKinney. And what I'll say as it relates to Mr. McKinney is that we're here for the trial of Mr. Conley. Mr. McKinney is not on trial before this jury at this time. Your focus as it relates to...
Can I just say something? You know what I'm thinking of this whole time is like they damn took over that neighborhood or that block like the damn Taj Mahal in New Jack City. Remember that? When they went into the Taj Mahal and just took it over, kicked people out their apartments, or, you know, however they did it. It's like they took over the block. I'm trying to figure out, where was the SWAT team, or was this just a horrible weekend in Atlanta where they just could not like come in? The Carter, yes. They had, what was the Taj Mahal was the place where the crackheads went and smoked, right? Yeah, they took over the Carter. The Taj, wasn't the Taj Mahal where they went, Sam Jackson and Halle Berry were smoking? Girl, just a mess. But you know what I'm saying? What happened? I'm shocked to hear that this was happening in Atlanta. Not to say that gang violence doesn't happen, but it sounds like they basically took over a block or two and you couldn't get in. That's crazy.
The guilt and innocence is on Mr. Conley. Mr. McKinney is not.
And I'm sure this jury probably hates that man right now because this story is horrible. It's a 8-year-old on her TikTok and gets shot up in the back seat of the car. This is absolutely horrible.
Attached to a part of this trial that is before each and every one of you during the next couple of days.
Girl, I'm getting all the stories mixed up. Okay. Yes. The 90s. Okay. Okay. The Taj Mahal was Jungle Fever, right? The Carter was New Jack City. Thank you. Let me get my 90s movies straight.
And what Detective Shepard will tell you is that he continued to review footage. And as he reviewed footage, he saw shortly before the shooting a MARTA bus. And through his number of years with the City of Atlanta Police Department, he knew that MARTA buses typically had cameras. And for once, he knew that this was an agency. This was a transportation industry that had great cameras, that had camera footage that we would hope to see on TV. Camera footage that reveals details of your face, of your clothing. So he reached out to members of the MARTA Police Department and MARTA Transportation, and he was able to identify that bus that was on the route. University in Pride. He was able to identify the driver. He was able to get the camera footage. And from his review and receiving of the camera footage, he was able to get the photographs of Mr. McKinney. He was able to use the video footage to take screenshots of the details of Mr. McKinney, of Mr. Conley, his red shirt, his rifle, his black bag that he had over his body. He then put that in a BOLO, or Crime Stoppers.
Who told him it was a good idea to take this to court? Or did they just say, no, we got plenty of evidence. We're not giving any deals. We're going to give deals to whoever comes. And if you want to wait to the last minute, you're just going to go ahead and get dragged in these court streets because you, sir, they got you. They got you. You got a damn silk scarf on like you damn Pirates of the Caribbean, rifle down with a bright red shirt on. Sir, excuse me? They got your full face in 4K. I can't wait to hear the defense. Mr. Abadi, you could just go ahead and sit down now. I mean, we see the pictures, we see the wanted poster. You've already, sir, you're good. You know what I'm saying? Like, say less.
Flyer, in which he again released throughout the city through the media.
Well, they just gave his co-defendant a deal, 40 years, due 20. So his Cody he's the last man standing. And they got deals. He's over here probably fighting for his life.
Through canvassing,
No
going
wop.
from person to person, house to house, asking if they recognize the person in the flyer. And as he did that, he did the same as it relates to Mr. McKinney, as he was able to get clear footage or clear pictures to distribute as it relates to him as a person of interest for the murder of Secoriea Turner. What you will learn, what you will hear and see is that as a result of these flyers, as a result of the media blast of the BOLO related to this defendant, Julian Conley, he came forward on July 13th of 2020. When
He
I say
did a
he came
press
forward,
conference? He did a press conference?
He came forward in a press conference that he
What?
arranged with his counsel at the time in front of several news outlets, one being in front of Tom Jones with WSB TV, and other media outlets, Fox 5 with Angelique Proctor, where they all met in a central location, a central area, and he made statements while on or during the press conference that his counsel made statements on his behalf as it relates to his picture being distributed as a person of interest. How he admitted that the person in the red shirt with the white writing, with the AR style rifle hanging from his body, and that black bag was him. That picture was of him. That he was on the scene at the time Secoriea Turner was killed. You will see distinct differences just a few days later in Mr. Conley's appearance. You'll see that he's changed his appearance. He's cut his hair. It's nothing like the photos that you see, that you saw previously, where he had a longer hair in twists that were coming down. And like I said, he made statements as it relates to identifying himself in the video that had been distributed by the City of Atlanta Police Department. And what Detective Shepard will tell you, again, the distinct difference in his appearance on July 4th and July 13th during the press conference. And as Detective Shepard saw, like all of us, we happened to be watching the news, watched it live, learned information, and took that information and added it to his investigation, added it to the hours and hours of video footage that he had watched, because he now identified the individual that he saw shooting at the vehicle in the red shirt with the white writing and the large rifle as Mr. Ivory passed through and around the barricade. And what Detective Shepard will tell you is that a day and a half later, from the conference the defendant held, he took out arrest warrants. And what Detective Shepard will tell you is that a common practice is once arrest warrants are taken out, they're turned over to the fugitive task force team for assistance in locating and apprehending a suspect in which warrants have been sworn out for. And what Detective Shepard will also tell you is that as that was done, as the fugitive task force began to do their part of the investigation in locating the defendant, the defendant's attorney, Jackie Patterson, who now goes by the fly lawyer Patterson, as you will hear. During that time, he reached out.
He had damn Jackie Patterson, the Bentley attorney. I wonder, remember Nesto was talking about, hey Ebony, hey boo boo. I wonder, remember he said he was defending somebody who was shooting at police officers? So I wonder, but he said he was representing the police. Who knows? Nesto can't get a story right, you know what I'm saying? But anyway, interesting. Okay. He had Mr. Patterson, but clearly he can't afford Mr. Patterson now because he's sitting there with the public defender's office.
And arranged for Julian Conley to turn himself in. And then on July 15th, 2020, a defendant was
Yes.
custody
Mm.
and placed under arrest. Now, you are also going to hear from experts that will be utilized during the state station chief. You'll hear from the chief medical examiner, Dr. Karen Sullivan, and she will talk to you about the autopsy that she did on 8-year-old Secoriea Turner. She'll talk about the cause of death, which was the gunshot wound that she received in her back. She'll talk about the manner of death, how she classified it as a homicide. She will describe to you, and you will hear about a rifle projectile that was removed from Secoria's little body. And she'll talk to you, and you will see photographs of the hole and how large it is. And she'll tell you that's typical, not unusual, an individual shot with a high-powered rifle round, like Secoriea was. You will hear toward the end of this trial from Sarah Van Holm with the Georgia Bureau of Investigations. Ms. Van Holm will talk to you about her expertise and what she's been doing at the GBI for a number of years. That she's a firearms examiner and that she has examined, analyzed, and made determinations about hundreds of different projectiles and ballistics evidence that she has compared. She will tell you that she received a number of ballistics evidence collected from the crime scene where Secoriea was shot. She will tell you she received that projectile that was removed from Secoria's body. And what Ms. Van Holm will tell you is that in her comparison of 7 shell casings, cartridge casings, as Ms. Van Holm will call them, in her comparison of those shell casings, she will be able to tell you that all of them came from one gun and that they were all fired from an AR-15 rifle. She will also tell you that the single bullet that was removed from Secoria's body is consistent with being fired from an AR-15 style firearm. Same caliber of ammunition, 5.56, 45, as the 7 shell casings that were collected from the scene. You will also hear from another member of the GBI back in 2020, Jared Coleman. You will hear about his qualifications. You will hear about his experience and his training in gangs throughout the country, throughout the state of Georgia, and the number of years that he has worked and documented different gang members, identified different signs, and things of that nature. And he will tell you about how he's able to make his determination about the gang evidence that he reviewed, about how the gang element is connected to and part of the cause of Secoria's murder. He will tell you about what we talked about here today, that members of the Pyru Blood gang seized control of the intersection of University and Pryor. He will tell you that that seizure of that intersection was to admit a dominance, gain a position of dominance of that territory, of that area where Mr. Brooks was killed, and his connection, God bless you, to Ivory Bloods, and how that this seizure was done via the armed checkpoint. And he will talk about the importance of a refusal to submit, a refusal to recognize the authority of these gang members, and how that refusal is met with violence, and here specifically gun violence. Now, as the judge mentioned earlier, again, this isn't live TV, the technology, as you've seen throughout this presentation is poor. What I want you to keep in mind is that we're giving you pens and paper, old school style, where you can take notes. I would encourage you to take notes, because though Madam Court Reporter is constantly typing, having to take down all the things that we say that don't make sense, the things that she can't understand, we can't give you a transcript of that as you go back to deliberate. Your transcript will be your notes. Your memory will depend on each and every one of your collective taking of notes. So I encourage you to take notes and to pay attention during the testimony and evidence, because everything that's presented to you is important. Everything that is presented to you is to get justice for 8-year-old Secoriea Turner. And what I want you to remember is that 8-year-old Secoriea, her family, the McCords, Mr. Camber, other witnesses who will testify throughout this trial, they're not on trial. He is. He's on trial for his actions on July 4th of 2020. And what the evidence will show, ladies and gentlemen, there was no excuse, there's no mitigation, and there's absolutely no justification for what this defendant and the members of his gang did to little 8-year-old Secoriea on July 4th, 2020. Their actions show nothing more than the fact that they have no regard at all for human life, no regard for a precious little 8-year-old Secoriea Turner who was just trying to get home. The only thing that the evidence will show as it relates to this defendant, what he wanted, what he was concerned about, was escaping the responsibility for his actions, to not being held accountable for the things that he, ladies and gentlemen, is responsible for from July 4th of 2020. And that's your job, ladies and gentlemen. Your job is to listen to the testimony and the evidence. And at the end of this trial, hold this defendant accountable. Hold him responsible for the things he did on July 4th of 2020. For cutting Secoria's life short, or only allowing her to live a very short 8 years, making her hopes and dreams of Spelman a reality that will never come true. Making it so Ms. Turner will never hear her daughter laugh, see her dance, do the things that she loves. And the evidence will be clear during the course of this trial that this defendant acted intentionally, he acted deliberately, and consciously made the decision to point, shoot, and pull that trigger at the vehicle that Secoriea was just trying to get home. The evidence will be clear. And at the end of this trial, ladies and gentlemen, myself, my co-counsel, Ms. Young, will have the opportunity to address you again, have the opportunity to talk to you about the injustice that little 8-year-old Secoriea Turner had to endure at the hands of this defendant. And we will have the absolute privilege to stand before you and ask that you return the only verdict that speaks the truth, and that this defendant is guilty of each and every charge in this indictment that you heard about during the beginning of 1 year. We ask that you hold Julian Conley accountable for his deliberate acts that caused the death of Secoriea Turner, and find him guilty on all counts. Thank you.
Do you all need this touch before you hear the other
Okay,
side?
so real quick, I was trying to find the news story he talked about because I have got to see this interview, but maybe they're going to show it. Since they talked about it, I'm assuming they're going to show it. These are some fools, okay? These guys, they are some fools because can like someone said, I don't know if it was Keonce, what was the end goal? You can't take over the streets of the United States. What are you kidding me? Even if they had a neighborhood at gunpoint for 48 hours, baby, they'll drop paratroopers down in here before you gonna take over some streets. They might, you know what I'm saying? They might be trying to get their tactical game together on how they're not going to lose civilians and let people get hurt, but the police are coming for you at some point. You can believe that. Are you kidding me? Anyway, let's hear what the defense has to say. I can't wait. Now after this guy in the blue suit, not Roberto, um does his thing, um Roberto is gonna have he's gonna have a fit with the judge. So this guy's opening speech is not gonna be as long. It looks like he's got about he don't have nothing to say. What can he say? They're probably looking for technicalities. Okay, let's go.
All right, who will be making the opening statement for the defense?
Your Honor.
Okay, thank you. Go right ahead, Mr. Regas.
9 days. The investigation into that precious girl's life lasted 9 days. On July 4th of 2020, her precious life was taken. And on July 13th, Officer Shepard.
Wait, so the judgment, this is gonna be a rush to judgment. They got the wrong guy. Look at the clerk. Hold on, y'all can't see because the chat. Look at the clerk like, oh really? Is this what we're going with? We're going with they got the wrong person. But y'all had assault rifles trying to take over a neighborhood. Can you explain that? They did an extensive search for 9 days, but why did you have people's neighborhoods under siege for 24, 48 hours? Why was Wendy's burned down? Can you explain? Like, come on now.
Said he was sure he had his person. He said he was 99.99% sure. 9 days later. And when you rush to justice by rushing to Julian, you inevitably land somewhere far different. And when you rush to justice by rushing to Julian, sometimes you just find yourself sitting in a seat charged with a crime you did not commit. And make no mistake about it, the evidence will prove that he did not commit this crime. And we are going to prove it. The math, the mother, and the man behind the wheel all agree, or at least they did, that Julian didn't do it. The math, the mother, and the man behind the wheel, they all said it, or at least they did, that he did not do it. We're going to start with the math. The state is saying that Julian pulled the trigger that killed that precious girl. They're going to say that she sat in the back seat in the middle of that car as it drove through the barricade. They are going to say that Julian was standing by the driver's side door as the car drove by. They are going to say that he fired into that car. And you are going to see video, and they are going to point to a person they are going to say was Julian. Well, What the math will say is that if Julian is the person they say he is, he didn't cause that girl's dead. She was, and there'll be no dispute about this, a beautiful, beautiful 8-year-old girl. And that did not deserve to happen to her. But more than one thing can be true at the same time. What happened to her as she sat in that car seat should not have happened. And what is happening to him as he sits in that seat should not be happening. What the math will tell you is that if that person is him, he could not have caused that girl's death.
I mean, why doesn't he say her name caused that girl's death? I'm sorry. If I were on the jury, he would have lost me already. I would already be mad at the fact that he's not addressing her by her name, little Miss Turner or Miss Secoriea. Calling her that girl is just not making it for me. Not to mention, why are you on the streets of the city of Atlanta with assault rifles like you're somewhere in the world where there is some sort of uprising going on, which I guess there was an uprising, you know what I'm saying? But why? Who told you to do that? Take your ass to work. Get a job, go to one of the colleges, get a trade, get a degree, get a diploma, get off the streets, go do something. Now you're going to be in the penitentiary for life. How did being on the streets assaulting your neighbors work out for you? How did the plan that was given to you work out? Like, it's just ridiculous.
Because
there's nothing about this defense that sounds good. This defense is horrible.
Is firing, as the evidence will show, and they'll have a medical examiner to testify about the fact if he's standing and firing at the driver's side door, their medical examiner is going to tell you that the bullet entered that beautiful young girl from right to left, from low to high, from back to front. What that medical examiner will tell you is that the person who fired that shot, that trajectory is consistent with a person being on the right side of the car or near the back right side of the car to create a low to high, back to front, right to left trajectory. The evidence is going to show that a person standing by the driver's side door could not create that. But beyond the map.
Hold on. Maybe they're not even saying he's the shooter. At the end of the day, if you're committing a felony and a murder happens during the commission of a felony, everybody's getting a capital murder charge. So it's possible he doesn't have to be the shooter. If they're standing on he's the shooter, then I guess they got some evidence to say he's the shooter. But at the end of the day, if everybody else took a deal, you're last man standing and you're going to get the full brunt of everything. He doesn't have to be the shooter. You guys, they were committing felonies just by being on the streets with those guns and shooting people and commandeering the street and barricading and obstructing the flow of traffic and kidnapping a neighborhood and all kinds of shit like that. I'm sure they got tons of charges. And the fact that a felony, a murder happened of an innocent bystander, and also this was a child, which makes it even go up a further notch. And then it was in the commission of other felonies. He's cooked. He is cooked like a Sunday chicken. I don't care how, I don't care who shot him. It could have been the guy from down the street. You're there. They got you on picture, and you're the one going to take a rap for it because you were doing something. And look how he slumped down in his seat. He's not ready.
On that night, as they rushed to the hospital, and that beautiful girl's mother was in that hospital, and she was talking to officers. She told those officers, help me, help me, help me. They said, how can we help you? She said, I saw the person who killed my baby. He was wearing black mask, black vest, dressed like y'all, all black with a long gun. Later, as she was in the hospital, she told officers again, I saw the person who killed my girl. He was wearing black mask, black vest, dressed like y'all, carrying a long gun.
So they're trying to say it was a SWAT officer. Okay, well, that's possible, but like he said he was going to prove it. Did we hear him say in this opening statement he's going to prove it? So in their case in chief, they're going to need to prove that it was not Julian, that it was a SWAT officer. Is that what he's saying? Like a tactical, whatever they call the VCAT. I don't know if they call it that in Atlanta, but the violent crimes apprehension team. That's what they call it here in Charlotte, VCAT.
You are going to see pictures of a person wearing all black, carrying a long gun, kneeling and firing upward. You are going to see that picture. Rush to justice by rushing to Julian. Sometimes you don't bother.
So you're saying they rushed to justice? This happened in 2020, right? It's 2025. Who rushed? They indicted him. They had to re-indict him. This has been damn near 5 years. If you had the smoking gun receipt, why have you not been able to make that receipt pop? It's not like they're having the trial 6 months after the baby was killed. This has been 5 damn years. Ma'am, the little girl would have been 13 years old right now. What are you talking about? It's not rushed to judgment. This is 5 damn years later. What are you talking about?
Looking at the evidence along the path. Because, as the evidence will show, the mother, and even a man behind the wheel say they didn't do it, or at least they did. In addition, they talked to that young woman the next day, the next couple of days at her home, and she repeated it. She repeated it. She repeated it. I saw the man, black, dressed like y'all, bounty hunter, black vest, long gun. That's what she said the night of. She said the day after. She said the day after. And so did the man behind the wheel. They talked to him. And he said, I saw the people who fired into that car. They were wearing black. They were dressed like bounty hunters. And they had long guns. That is what he told them. That is what he told them. But not only did he tell them that, he gave Officer Shepard pictures. He gave Officer Shepard a picture of people in some crew. And he said, these are the two people. He talked about one guy being darker with a beard and another guy being short with dreadlocks. Those are the two people who shot into that car. Dressed in black, dressed like bounty hunters. He said the same thing that young woman said. But when you rush to justice, by rushing to Julian, you ignore evidence along the way. July of 2020, that was a different time. People were home. That was in the height of COVID. And as the state indicated, that was what the police called an autonomous zone. And what the evidence will show, that will be a very generous description, for they just gave it up and said, y'all good over there. They provided no protection. They provided no security. They provided no peace. They allowed that area to police itself. They call it an autonomous zone, but again, that's very generous. They abandoned their responsibility. They abandoned their duty. It was July 4th. It was Independence Day, as the state said. But the evidence will show it was more than Independence Day. The evidence will show it was almost Independence Month. They were independent of law enforcement. They were on their own, not by choice, but because they were left no choice. That came at a time you had George Floyd in Minnesota, and witnesses will talk about this. You had George Floyd in Minnesota. You had Ahmaud Arbery down in Brunswick. And you had Rayshard Brooks right there at Wendy's in June. And when that happened, when all those things happened, people congregated at the scene of the Rayshard Brooks shooting. They congregated at that Wendy's for one night, for 1 week, for 2 weeks, for 3 weeks. They stayed, many of them stayed overnight. And in that autonomous zone, as they call it, it wasn't about gangs taking over. And the witnesses will tell you, it had zero to do with gangs. In fact, as it was Independence Month, what you had in that community was, in their eyes at least, and they'll tell you, the community felt like it was winning. And not just winning, it was winning finally. They saw George Floyd. They saw Ahmaud Arbery. They saw Rayshard Brooks. And in that area, they had tents. They had grills. The community was feeding itself. You even had people who planted a garden. They were trying to provide haircuts for kids. They even had a porta potty they had there by the Wendy's, because it was Independence Day, but it was Independence Month. Not by choice, but because they were left no choice. And as they took care of themselves and stayed there and tried to as they'll say, have their voices heard for once. Be seen. Be seen. They started hearing the rumblings. They started hearing the rumors of outsiders coming in, of the Klan coming in, various other things, the rumors that they'll tell you they heard. They're not going to show you any evidence of any defendant bringing in a barricade. The barricade was left by the city because it was Independence Day, but it was Independence Month because law enforcement said, nah, y'all good over there. So they brought barricades. And as the witnesses will tell you, under the influence of all of what's happening in June of 2020 of the George Floyd and the Ahmaud Arbery and the Rayshard Brooks, also, they were cognizant, they knew of, they were aware of, and they were frightened about Heather Heyer, a woman protesting in West Virginia, Charlottesville, Virginia, where a car rammed the protesters. Because on this scene, on this night, as it had been the case for previous month almost, you had kids playing in the street, you had people cooking out, kids doing cartwheels, and families cooking and sharing food. This area is about 50 yards. It's less than a football field, 50 to 100 yards from beginning to end of that barricade. And that was the area. You'll see the video. Because it was Independence Day. That was the area where they wanted to keep their piece of America safe. The witnesses will tell you it was not about harming anybody. It was about healing everybody and protecting the community. So what you'll see is, you'll see that car go barreling past the barricade. You'll see that car hit somebody as it tries to jump out of the way. And you'll see somebody who was hit raise up and start firing. And you'll see that car keep going. And then you'll see somebody at that second barricade kneel in fire. All they wanted to do was keep that area safe. Because when that car came by, nobody at that barricade knew who was in it. They didn't know that beautiful young girl was sitting in the back seat. All they knew, and they'll tell you, was that car come barreling past. And they knew there were kids in the street, people in the street, in the community. They had to keep safe because it was Independence Day. As the evidence will show, 9 days into what should have been a thorough investigation, Officer Shepard said that he was 99.99% sure that Julian Conley fired those shots into that car. But you will see, as you've heard, that Julian Conley had on what they have called, and what the evidence will show, and what the picture will show, a distinctive red shirt. Julian Conley had on a distinctive red shirt. But when you rush to justice by rushing to Julian, you ignore the fact, as the evidence will show, that the mother, and the man behind the wheel all said something different, because what the mother said was all black, dressed like a cop. What the man behind the wheel said was all black, dressed like a bounty hunter. What the man behind the wheel showed pictures of were people in all black, dressed like a bounty hunter. But he had on distinctive red. But what happened? The evidence will show that they got his picture. They got his picture when he went to that MARTA bus. Didn't threaten anybody, but they got his picture right there on the camera provided by the MARTA bus. In his red distinctive shirt, not black. And the evidence will show they put that picture on TV. And the evidence will show that when they put that picture on the TV, that man said, I want to go clear my name. And he called a lawyer. I am not responsible for him calling himself the fly lawyer, but he called a lawyer. He wasn't the fly lawyer. He called a lawyer who was a friend of his mom. He called a lawyer that he knew was in law enforcement with his mom when they worked at Clark University Police. So that was the person they called, Jackie Patterson. Jackie, can you help my son? And that man, to clear his name, I'm wearing red, because at this point, the evidence will show flyers had already gone out, black, dressed like a bounty hunter, but he saw his picture on the screen and said, let me go turn myself in. Let me clear my name. And when he did that, when you rush to justice by rushing to Julian, you disregard a lot of facts along the way. He turned himself in, thinking he would clear his name. When Officer Shepard made that statement 9 days later about being 99.99% sure, that was before he'd even requested to view the results of the autopsy. Because, again, when you rush to justice, you don't have to wait for details. Before he got the results, before he'd seen the results of the medical examiner, he already made up his mind. I'm so happy you're here. At some point, the state is going to tell you that you get to use your common sense and don't check it at the door. I'm so glad you're here. Because the common sense will tell you that when you are 99.9% sure, what you're looking for after that. So when he made that statement about being 99.9% sure and saying that Julian was standing by that driver's side door firing into the car, he didn't know at that point that the bullet entered from right to left, low to high, back to front. They get to the hospital that night. It's about 10 o'clock or so at Atlanta Medical Center. And while that mother is in the hospital with their daughter, the man behind the wheel is outside in the parking lot. And he's telling them from outside in that parking lot, I'm gonna have a lawyer tomorrow. His exact words were something along the lines of, I'm gonna have a top flight lawyer tomorrow, 0 money down. We're talking hours from the time that beautiful girl was shot. I'm so glad you're here. So glad you're here. Because although, as the evidence will show, that I guess they call him Detective Shepard, concluded his investigation in 9 days, it's not over. It is not over. Because he doesn't get the last word. He doesn't get to say that you're 99.9% sure. You will get to examine all the evidence. You will get to hear all of the witnesses. You'll get to do something they didn't do. When you rush to justice by rushing to Julian, you ignore the fact that the mother, and the man behind the wheel all agree that he didn't do it. You'll get to finish the investigation. You'll get to find him not guilty of all those charges, and I thank you for your attention.
This
Thanks, everyone.
lifting the
Have a
chair
beautiful day before we
thing
start.
was absolutely ridiculous. The man, was it? The mom and the man behind the wheel. And when you rush to judgment, you rush to Julian. Okay, well, he thinks he's Johnny Cochran. There's only one Johnny Cochran, the amazing, often imitated, never duplicated Johnny Cochran. He thinks he's going to come up with, there is no one who will ever get it better than if it don't fit, you must have quit. Okay. I mean, I'm sorry. He's just not going to do it. Anyway, okay. They're getting ready to
With our
take a
first
little
witness. You need a restroom break? Okay, go ahead and step out.
restroom break. Okay. So here we go. Reason why we're going to go to the first witness is because Hoover's going to get up. Hoover's going to have an almost automatic objection. So let's just, where are we at for time? Okay. We'll go a little bit longer. If you guys want me to run the rest of this, we're about an hour and a half in. We will go until Hoover, till right about here, which is probably about another hour. And then I'm gonna let y'all go. If you guys want to run up the rest of it, then we can come back tomorrow. Looks like they're gonna have some video. And when I say tomorrow, I mean like, I don't know where everybody is, but it'll probably be like early in the morning because and then we can finish up day 1. We might come back later, do day 2. And then maybe tomorrow on Sunday, we can do day 3. And guess what? Monday we'll be all the way caught up. So you know what I'm saying? But we're not going to binge it all in one sitting, but we can do about another hour till they take their first break. But Hoover's going to get up and show his ass. Okay. What time is it now? We're at the 1:30 mark. So when I move up, they're going for potty break. And guess what? 30 minutes later, okay, they're getting ready to call the first witness, and then Hoover's getting ready to get up there and get all persnickety with everybody. And then, so yeah, they're getting ready to go about 45 minutes. So let's get into it. Let's do 45 minutes. We'll get to that stopping point, and then we'll pick up the rest of this in the morning, okay? Is that a deal?
Okay. Ready to call your first witness? Thank you. Everybody be seated.
Do you swear to affirm the testimony you give to the court that the truth, the whole truth, so help you? I do. Go ahead and have a seat in the state. Spell your name to the microphone.
Detective Jason Tigg, JASON, City of Atlanta Police Department.
Good afternoon, Detective T. Can you tell the jurors how you are currently employed, sir?
I'm a detective in the Police Department's Homeland Security Unit,
Okay. And how long have you worked with the City of Atlanta Police Department?
27 years.
And can you tell the jurors, your 27 years, kind of briefly, where you've been assigned throughout your career?
When I came on the police department after police academy, I was assigned to Zone 3 as a patrol officer for the first 5 years of my career, at which time I was promoted to detective in 2004, at which I was a robbery and aggravated assault detective, mostly concentrating in the downtown area. Then I was transferred to the Intelligence Organized Crime Unit up under our Homeland Security Unit. And I specialize in investigations dealing with organized crime, hiring, narcotics, and things of that nature. After which I was moved within the unit to our electronic surveillance unit in 2009, when I was sent off to training to specialize in basically everything from taking video, installing covert cameras, GPS tracking, wiretapping, video recovery from digital video systems, radiological detection, and things of that nature.
And you said you were assigned to that unit or that division of Homeland Security in 2009. You've been there ever since.
Yes.
And can you describe to jurors the training that you received when you started and the training you continued in order to be able to do what you do in the technical division of Homeland Security?
Well, just continuing training in different places. A lot of training we've had to go to Regional Counter Drug Training Academy in Meridian, Mississippi, where I went through my basic tech school, which was an 80-hour course, and then teaching you how to deal with cameras, installations, dealing with GPS trackers and things of that nature. Then there was another week class right after that, teaching you how to install in vehicles, semantics of dealing with sound capturing video in vehicles and things of that nature. Then specifically for video recovery training class, Federal Law Enforcement Training Center in Glencoe, Georgia, where the state, local, and federal police officers train in technical issues dealing with video recovery, and basically just getting that more extensive training at Ocean Systems up in Silver Springs, Maryland, dealing with video and video recovery.
Okay.
I'll be here for a long time if I go into various aspects.
Let me focus in. You've talked about your training as it relates to video recovery. Is that training something that you received as you talked about, and is that training you continue to receive because of the changing technology?
Yes.
And in what you do with Homeland Security in the technical unit, can you explain to the jurors, are you requested to assist on many different cases with the City of Atlanta Police Department?
Yes, whenever crimes occur and there are people who have digital video recording systems, and people generally don't know how to export the video so we can put in evidence. Me and 3 of my co-workers were called out to the scene to recover the video. The investigators who will lead on the case tell us the time frame of video that is needed, and we pull the video for them, make sure the video plays, and turn it over to the detectives so they can watch and study their evidence.
And the video recording systems that you encounter when you're assisting the many different detectives within the police department,
are, in your experience, all the video equipment that you encounter, is it the same, is it different?
No, there are many different kinds. Basically, the main thing that's focused on in the training, you have to learn the methodology of how to get the video. You go into some systems, they have different terminology in them, like you have to pick the video. Some of them you have to click export. Some of them you have to click backup. Some you have to click download. You have to know how to get to the time frame needed and things of that nature. And that's pretty much the main part of the training. We had down in Flexi, there's a whole lab of just many different video systems. And during that week of training, even though it was a 40-hour course, we were in there 9 to 10 hours a day, just in those labs, just going through different video systems and just exporting the video so it can be given over as evidence and presented. So it's, like I said, it's just, you have to get trained on the methodology.
And as part of your training and the methodology, is there ever a time, because of the different types of video equipment that you encounter, that the equipment actually has to be taken from the location and you export what you've talked about that way?
Yes.
Okay. Now, let's talk about the fact that, I'm gonna bring this up here just in case you
Appreciate it.
Bottle of water.
Thank you.
Now, let's talk about, as it relates to the different systems that you encounter, do all of them keep time or the timestamps that are associated with the video surveillance footage you're able to extract or take off the system? Is that all on one central time network, or is it different?
It depends on the system. Some systems are network video systems that are pretty much tied in with the internet and run like computers. So generally those time frames stay the same. Standalone digital video recorders, just the best description I have, kind of look like old school VCRs, but just all digital with a hard drive in them. Those things are, you have to go in and manually change the time. So time gets off on those things, generally depending on how long the system's been there. Things like power outages, daylight savings times, and things like that you have to account for. And most of the time, most people, once they put it in, they leave it alone. If they don't have incidents to go on, it's just there. So the time over time gets off a little bit, but the video recordings stay consistent. So when we go into there, we have to look at the date and time offset and account for that when we're pulling the video.
And based on kind of what you just described, when hypothetically, if you're helping an investigator, either in homicide or in a different department or unit within the City of Atlanta Police Department, and you pull footage from several different video surveillance systems from, let's say, a BP at one location, a warehouse camera, is it possible that the timestamps on those two independent video systems are different, but covering the same time period?
Yeah, because generally you can even, their times generally never match up. Even it's kind of like even with you and your cell phones, a lot of times you might have a cell phone on Verizon or a cell phone on AT&T, they might not even match up perfectly. And when you're dealing with video systems like that, they generally never match up perfectly.
So in those instances, when you are able to locate different video surveillance systems in an area that there's the potential that evidentiary value is of each system, how are you able to make sure that you pull the same time period for each system if they're running on different times, but they have different timestamps?
Well, you look at the time on the live screen right there, and you make the changes, you account for that and just pull back. On homicide investigations, usually though, we're pulling a massive amount of video. We're going back sometimes hours, if not days, sometimes to pull video. So we account for that. And generally, when we pull video, the defining thing we like to do is to most of the time catch when the patrol cars are there, because of the in-car video systems and the body-worn cameras. Those times are usually correct. So that's way, once we have them arrive, that's how we can gauge if we were watching the video approximate times.
Okay. And coming this back on July 4th of 2020, were you requested, or was your assistance requested by the lead detective, Detective Shepard, as it relates to the death of Secoriea Turner between the hours of 9:30 and 10 o'clock on July 4th?
Yes.
And once you receive that request or that call for assistance, can you tell the jurors kind of the first steps that you take in order to assist Detective Shepard?
Well, Detective Shepard directs me which businesses he wants me to pull the video from. And generally, they've already made contact with the people that I need to talk to go in there, identify myself, and they show me to where their video system is. If there's a password or not, they give me the password, go into the system, designate, see what time the system shows, and starts pulling the amount of video that Detective Shepard has asked for.
Okay, and the area, the general area that you were requested to come to and provide assistance, was that kind of near the intersection of University and Pryor?
Yes.
And is that location that you that corridor that you canvassed and attempted to extract video surveillance here in the city of Atlanta, Fulton County?
Yes, it is.
Now, once you arrived to the scene, can you kind of describe what you observed, the environment?
Well, there's been ongoing protests out there for a bit, and the area had, best description was kind of like in disarray in the area, because basically overnight there was like hardly any law enforcement presence out there. So it was kind of a interesting scene.
When you arrived on scene, were there other officers and detectives on scene?
Yes.
And is one of the primary concerns when you arrived and when others arrived the safety of the members of the police department and the general public that's still present and out there?
Yes, because we have to hold the crime scene.
Okay. And let me ask you this question. During the summer of 2020, you were working in Homeland Security?
Yes.
And as it relates to your specific division or unit, Homeland Security, were there, to your knowledge, based on being in the unit, officers or detectives with that unit present throughout the summer?
Present, yes, present in the areas generally until certain times when things started going south at night.
Okay, and can you explain, what do you mean by that? The present generally, and then at night, their presence was, it sounds minimal?
At that location, generally at night, people started showing up.
It's an objection, Ron. I don't know that the officer is testifying from personal experience.
I am.
Okay, well, I will withdraw the objection. Thank you.
People started showing up carrying long guns, walking in the area, blocking the street, and confronting vehicles as they passed through. Generally around those times, we were basically told to go ahead and leave the area, because when you're dealing with undercover police officers and people open carrying of weapons, you increased the possibility of confrontations between the two.
And is it fair to say that withdrawing, the presence of uniform officers during that time, and as well as you said undercover officers at the evening, is that for the general safety of everyone?
Depends on someone's point of view, but generally, yes, you're just lessening the potential of an armed confrontation.
Okay. That's a bad question. I should ask, does that minimize, based on your training experience, the risk of confrontation with law enforcement being withdrawn with people open carrying rifles and things of that nature?
In a sense, yes.
Okay. Now, when you arrived to assist Detective Shepard in his investigation, can you explain to the jurors the video surveillance systems that you encountered and your success in being able to extract or take data from the surrounding area?
Yes. Different systems. The BP gas station had a specific system that uses a proprietary player, and the other two had regular DVR system except for the digital. The system at the diesel place that was actually at the time it was vacant. They had their cameras outside on poles recording.
Okay. And is that the area that can be described as a kind of a warehouse that's kind of past or across catty corner from where the Wendy's used to stand?
Yes.
And were you able to get any video surveillance footage from the liquor store, the package store at the top of the street where University and Pryor intersect?
Yes.
And can you tell the jurors when you encountered that system, was there anything different than what you've described as it relates to the systems you encountered with the what I'll call the warehouse and then the BP gas station?
Just different brands.
Okay. And can you tell the jurors when you examined the systems and you were able to, well, were you able to extract footage from each one of the systems and each one of the locations?
Yes.
And in your review of the cameras and the footage, were all of the timestamps that you encountered from each system, were they the exact same?
No.
And were you able to do what you described, look for uniform officers or events that you have been, that you've talked about here with Detective Shepard and locate the footage for what's been described?
Yes.
Okay. And in each instance, as it relates to the footage or the system from the BP, the package store, and then the warehouse, were you able to actually download the requested footage from Detective Shepard?
Yes.
And I want to show you what's been marked as
Yes.
You will take a look at States Exhibit 2 and let me know if you recognize it.
Yes. This video from them. Yes, ma'am.
And the video, is it contained on a USB?
Sorry, she couldn't
Yes,
do it.
video from the incident.
The video that you described from the incident in States Exhibit 2, had you have an opportunity to review all the video footage contained or the video footage that's contained on the USB drive?
Yes.
And is that video footage a fair and accurate copy of the footage you were actually able to pull from the BP, the package store, and the warehouse?
Yes.
And in addition to looking at the footage you actually pulled, did you also look at footage on State Exhibit 2 where it was a compilation in the sense that the footage from each one were merged or put together?
Yes.
And did, after you reviewed the compilation, did it fairly and accurately depict all the footage that you looked at previously when you assisted Detective Shepard on July 4th, 2020?
Yes.
Yeah, at this time, the statement of tender was been marked as State Exhibit 2 in evidence.
Any objection?
We don't know right now, we don't know exactly what video we're talking about. I know he mentioned the compilation because I think we will object to the compilation.
But I can lay a greater foundation if
That's fine,
that's
go ahead.
necessary. So when I say compilation, in your review of what I'm calling the compilation, is that footage all taken from, for example, the BP?
Yeah. Compilation, all of it from the VP.
Wow.
It seemed like the compilations from different videos there, but it looked like some of it was zoomed in.
So let me be more specific. The compilation, was it specific time periods from each one of the video surveillance camera systems that you encountered and have described today from July 4th of 2020?
Yes, you should be able to match up the compilation to the raw video.
And in your review, is that what you were able to do?
Yes.
At this time, now in the state defendant was remarked the State Exhibit 2.
And I'll object to if it's the altered video where there are marks on it, I'll object to that. And I'm just not certain if that's the video we're talking about in terms of compilation where there are circles and highlights. I object to that.
Are there circles and highlights?
And zoomed in, as the witness said.
But there is.
Okay, are you gonna submit the original videos too? Are you gonna put those in evidence in case the defense needs the original
all-
videos? It's all there?
Did State Exhibit 2, did it contain every video that you were able to pull from the extractions of all three systems?
Yes, it had the raw video.
And in addition to the raw video, did it have a compilation of the raw video from each of the systems you described, but for specific time periods, and let's say for an example, 9 to 10 o'clock from the BP, from the warehouse, and from the package store?
Yes.
And was any of the footage altered in a way that changes the substance of what you were able to extract and pull?
From what I watched, no.
Okay. I would tender state Exhibit 2.
We object to the altered video.
On what ground?
It's altered, Your Honor. It is testimonial. There are circles, there are highlights, there are, I think, zoomed in parts are dark. It's enlightened. It's testimonial. It's drawing conclusions that should be in the province of the jury to determine if that person is the person they're saying it is.
Okay, I think that these may be arguments for whether the video would go out later in the trial with the jury. Do you want to talk? You can talk. Go ahead.
Well, Your Honor, I believe this is an issue that we need to discuss outside the presence of the jury. We
Okay.
didn't understand that they were going to try to admit this right now.
Okay. So members of the jury, can I send them to lunch now?
If we could finish this witness, then
Okay.
I think
Will you guys step in the jury room for just a minute?
All right, for the jury.
Why that man have on that red suit? Sir has on a burgundy suit with a burgundy tie. Roberto's getting ready to show his behind right now, and that's not Ernell Winfrey. That's someone else.
I do have a couple questions for you right off the bat. Is this being tendered as a demonstrative or substantive evidence? Okay, and who made the marks or zoomed in? Do we know that?
Our graphics department.
Graphics department, okay.
Maybe,
Yes,
there's no changes to the video, not, sorry, Mr. Biden. I don't think it goes to the admissibility, if you go to the weight that the jury gives it, but it's nothing that changes or alters the video in any type of way, except for it's a circle.
and it doesn't remove anything from the province of the jury because Detective Teague is not saying that he has any idea who the person, any of the people in the video are. He is indicating it is video that he pulled that is being tendered as evidence that has circles around it.
okay, go ahead.
The circle says, this is Conley, and that circle follows that person. And it follows that person into a shaded area where you can't even make out who the person is within that area. But that circle is still there. It is suggested that the same person you saw here in circle is the same person you saw here. Clearly, Mr. Conley's circle is the same person you see here. Not clearly, but it's the same circle, so it's testimonial. It's drawing a conclusion for the jury that person A is person B, and that's what this whole case is about to some extent.
Okay, is he gonna testify about the video or is he just laying the foundation for the video?
Well, he's not going, none of the video is going to be shown with him, if that's your question. He is laying the foundation and I'm tendering it.
And is another witness gonna testify about the marks on it and anything that would be testimonial, like arrows saying that that's the defendant? Will somebody else testify to that?
Detective Shepard would be the one who testifies about the markings on the video because he did the markings as it relates to a set of the videos. And then our graphics department used the same markings when we combined. So there's a 360 or 180 view of the entire area. But
Okay.
the raw footage is the raw footage. There's no way to change that.
Okay,
And no objection to the raw footage.
I have an objection, Your Honor, just to clear everything up. For the record, Shawn Hoover on behalf of Mr. Conley. The reason I said this had to be outside the presence of the jury because I didn't believe this was going to pop up this early. So in regards to what the state is trying to do with this officer or this witness is literally bring in all of the surveillance evidence collected and altered by multiple people through him. Once we allow that tendered in, there's no second step for us to say, no, we didn't know what that was. That's the problem. So, Your Honor, in regards to this officer, if they want to tender the surveillance that he received from those locations, period, that's it, that he gave to Detective Shepard, we have no objection to that. However, Detective Shepard, now we know someone in the district attorney's office, which now there's a foundational issue because we need to know who took the videos, who are they an expert, are they not? what they use to alter or change the videos, he can't say they're fair and accurate because we know someone in the district attorney's office did something to it after him. So not only is there a foundational issue, there is also an identification issue. The identification issue is once somebody altered that video, now it sounds like they're going to try to use Detective Shepard to come in and say the person that we zoomed in on, the person that we put the circle around, the person that we're following, I believe that to be Mr. Conley. There's case law in Georgia that explicitly says an officer is not a person that can identify a person on a blurry video like that. And I can quote some case law now, or we can wait till Detective Shepard gets up here, Your Honor. But what case law says is, in these situations where the video is blurry, or the video you can't 100% see a person's face or who that person is, a witness that was on the scene can testify to who they believe that person is. The victim that was on the scene can testify who they believe that person is, or someone who personally knows Mr. Conley, who's seen the video and knows his mannerisms, knows his gaits, knows how he walks, knows how he talks. They can use their personal information, if called, to bring that in. What the state is trying to do is take surveillance video that was not altered, was not changed or deleted in any way. They gave it clearly to someone in their office who we don't even know who that person is because they never told us about it, which is a violation on its own. And now they want to bring a detective in to identify Mr. Conley when the video shouldn't come in, the still shot shouldn't come in, anything altered shouldn't come in, and that witness is not the person that is supposed to, or that's qualified to identify Mr. Conley on these types of videos. So for all of those reasons, we cannot allow this whole USB drive to be tendered in. We got to go piece by piece because now we know the district attorney's office did something to change the original video. So he can't say it's a fair and accurate representation of what he downloaded because they just admitted that it's not because of them.
That is not the case.
You just said somebody in your office.
I let
Okay,
you argue. It's my
let him speak.
I'm up. So, but what happened, what just occurred with Detective T was he said he reviewed the compilation, that there were no alterations or deletions to the footage in itself, and that there are circles around it. The circles are not, he is not saying they're Conley. Detective Shepard isn't saying it's Conley. The circles indicate that it's the person with the red shirt on, which you can see, the person with the jeans that are lighter than everybody, which you can see. We can make that argument in closing that the person in the circle with the red shirt on, with the jeans on, that are light colored and not black like everybody else is Mr. Conley, because he was the only person out there with a red shirt, white writing, and the light colored jeans. And then he identifies himself on the footage from the press conference as that him being the person in the BOLOs or the Crime Stopper flyers.
Is the detective going to say he participated in that preparation of the video, that he was part of that?
100%.
Okay, so point well taken. I'm going to admit this subject to the continued foundation being laid. So right now it can't be played for the jury, but I'm going to allow that he has laid a foundation for identifying that as the raw video that has been placed in another format that he recognizes and hasn't been changed. But before a jury sees that, we're going to hear additional testimony, and it's fine for that to be out in the presence of the jury.
And
Okay.
before Detective Shepard takes a stand, Your Honor, I would like to present the case law that I have.
That's fine. Mhm. Okay. Okay. When do you think you're going to present the detective? Is that today or a different day?
It would not be today. It was
Okay.
tomorrow. Friday.
Okay, that's fine. And if you want to submit something, if you want to go ahead and give us the case law during one of the breaks, that's fine. Okay. Okay. And are you also going to tender just the raw footage? Are you going to put the original videos in or no?
They're on the.
The original videos are all on that as well. So it's the original videos plus a kind of compilation.
Correct.
Okay, thank you. All right, we can bring the jury back in. Do you want me to make that ruling again in front of the jury, or do you guys want to let them go to lunch?
Well, how much more I don't know how much more they have.
Do you have any more?
with this witness.
I may have one question on that.
Okay. All right, well, it's been tendered outside their presence, so if you want to take it back up in front of them, that's fine, but if not, it's settled.
But I guess is Your Honor going to rule on,
I'll rule.
All right, for the jury.
What exhibit number was that?
2, Your Honor.
2. Thank you. All right, having heard the arguments of the parties, please see it. Having heard the arguments of the parties as to exhibit number 2, at this point, the proper foundation has been laid for the raw footage that's on that jump drive, and the remainder, any compilations are admitted, but subject to the continued foundation being laid through a later witness. So
Thank you.
everybody understand the ruling?
Yes,
Okay,
Yes, Your Honor.
thank you.
Your Honor, I have no further questions for the type.
Okay. Cross.
Good afternoon, sir.
Yeah, please.
I think you talked about in your direct testimony, the area being in a bit of a disarray. Is that fair to say?
That's to put it lightly.
When was your first time going to the scene or to the area?
Okay, hold on a second, guys. I found the video finally. God. Okay, here we go. This is the little press conference they say he had. Okay, here we go. So he was 19 at the time. So he's somewhere about, it's been 5 years. So he's 24-ish, I guess. I don't know. 20, he was 19. So depending on, birthdays, he's 24, 25 years old now. But they were all, the reason why they said he tried to change his appearance, because you saw he had locks or something. His hair was braided or he had some locks or something. And at this moment, he's cut his hair. So, and here's Jackie Patterson, who was Nesto's lawyer for a hot minute.
I can ask you a question I wasn't on, but you said if he was a person of interest before, why is he a suspect now? Simply because once we identified him as the person being in that picture, we refused to talk to the police. So they felt like since we refused to talk, they'll go ahead and issue a felony murder warrant. And that's what happened in this case. He's being arrested solely because he refused to cooperate.
So you saying this is retaliatory?
Absolutely. It's no question. If they had evidence that he killed this child, they would have certainly made an arrest before now. But they decided that once I identified him as the person in that picture and we wouldn't cooperate, then they decided, let's show him. We're going to issue a murder warrant.
And he's still saying he didn't shoot anyone?
Absolutely. He never fired a weapon at all that day.
And why did he have a gun
Did you hear him say that day?
out there?
Because the Second Amendment to the Constitution.
So he identified himself. They had the BOLO, the be on the lookout. And Jackie Patterson, basically identified him as the person in the picture, or he identified himself. So he self-snitched and, which that's fine. And y'all mad?
Constitution says you have a right.
This was 2020. This was July 2020. I don't think he's been out of jail since.
To carry a weapon in the public. And that's what he was doing, exercising his Second Amendment right.
What's that in the bag?
Those are the things.
Well, yeah, they've got the pictures. He cut his hair. You can see he cut his locks off.
Clean underwear and things like that, because we know it's going to be a while. So we want to make sure that he has underwear and t-shirts.
And he told me the other day, I don't know if he said, Secoriea had her funeral day. Anything you want to say to the family?
Not at all. He just simply hate that child lost her life.
And I know you said Second Amendment was allowing him to have that gun out there, registered licensed gun owner for that gun.
He just has a right to carry a weapon in public. You don't need a license to do that. Thank you.
He went to the jail with underwear, t-shirts, and socks. Wow. I didn't even know you could do such a thing. Oh, he didn't even wear his shoes. He wore his own flip-flops. I mean, listen, let me just say this. On top of everything, if you're coming to if you identify yourself as the person that they believe is the shooter, that's number one. You identified yourself as the person they believe to be the shooter. Number two, You came up in there in flip-flops carrying a shopping bag with underwear and t-shirts. You and you're mad because they're trying you? They identify the shooter and you identify yourself as the person in the BOLO. Come on now. You can't have it both ways. Did he think that they were going to put him on a pedestal because he turned himself in? That's stupid. And after 9 days, if you have the person that you think you're looking for turn themselves in, why would they continue to look? You think they're still looking for someone from Charlie Kirk? The man turned himself in, said it was him, and brought his gun and everything. His daddy called, the pastor called. He, you know what I'm saying? The boyfriend, they got text messages. You think they're looking for anybody else? They might be, but officially no, because the person who said they did it, it checks out and they're not looking anymore. So what? In 3 days, the investigation's over, so it's not the right person. And then this guy, 9 days, he decides to cop to it. They're supposed, oh no, it's not you. We'll just keep looking for another person. Anyway, this I guess was the press conference that Abadi was referring to. Look, they're COVID. They're taking his temperature. Oh, they're getting ready to handcuff him now. Go ahead and put him under arrest. Okay, well, that's it. Anywho, this is the parents.
Mr. Williamson and Miss Turner, did you all want to say anything?
Look at the mom. She's so young. Look at her. I'm
8 years old. Right now is what, 30 minutes after the 6th. She would have been on TikTok dancing in her phone. Just got finished eating. We understand the frustration of Rayshard Brooks. We understand. We ain't got nothing to do with that. We innocent. We didn't mean no harm. My baby didn't mean no harm. Somebody knows something.
They say Black Lives Matter. You killed your own. Killed your own this time. Just because of barrier. They killed my baby because she crossed the barrier and made a U-turn. You killed a child. She ain't do nothing to nobody.
They didn't give us time to make a U-turn. They started shooting on my car before we could even make a U-turn. Shooting my tires out. Like, why?
But Black Lives Matter.
My baby was shot in her bed.
Killing your own.
Nobody there to help
You
me.
killed an 8-year-old child.
Nobody.
I want to hear her say they had a black outfit on with a Scully or a mask on. They're not saying anything like that.
She ain't did nothing to now one of y'all. She just wanted to get home to see her cousin. That's all she wanted to do. She just wanted to get home.
What's up?
Had in my own.
No, and the sad irony of this, you all watched the video of Rayshard Brooks. He talked about wanting to get home for his daughter's 8th birthday.
Birthday. We didn't do nothing. We didn't do anything.
Let me just tell you all about this Wendy's location. The time for this.
Do you imagine you're just trying to get home?
Say something on behalf.
The people take over the streets for whatever reason. They tell you to make a U-turn. You can't even make a U-turn. They start shooting out your car. Like they were ready to kill everybody in the vehicle. Like what were they going to do? Shoot out the tires and then what? Rob the women? Is that what they're doing? Like that's crazy. Were they going to rob them? Were they going to just kill them? They killed the little girl. Were you going to kill the adults? You're just going to kill everybody in the car. Were you going to shoot them? Like, what was the point in shooting up the vehicle? But your attorney is saying that you were trying to protect the neighborhood. So they asked, was he a licensed gun owner? And is it because he was carrying a rifle? Down south, sometimes certain rifles you don't have to have a license for, but an assault rifle, I don't know that that's actually correct. But I don't know. I don't know about an assault rifle. Like a hunting rifle, no. Assault rifle is a different story, especially within city limits. I don't know that stands up, but anyway.
Half of our family, we're going to get through this because we are just that, a family. Whoever did this, we asking the public, we are pleading, call Crime Stoppers, call the Atlanta Homicide. If you're in a different county, DeKalb County, call DeKalb County Homicide. If you see this person in a vehicle, get a tag number, something. We are pleading with you to come forward for this. We are pleading. This is a child life gone too soon. We are pleading. Anybody, if you know anybody that knows somebody that know this person's a person, please, we beg you. We beg you, please, please. Let's do this, bring this in for justice. If you out there and you hear this plea for a family to be able to sleep better at night, because Secoriea, my 8-year-old beautiful niece, got taken away out of nothing. I ask you to please just turn yourself in. Please, turn yourself in. This is your friend, your neighbor, your cousin. Please, please. We urge you, we beg you, please, call Crime Stoppers, call Atlanta Police, DeKalb County Police, whatever police, call somebody so we can get this case settled and get justice for Secoriea. Please. Thank you.
She said that. Okay. All right, let's get back and then we're going to finish up. We only got a few more. Look at that. We only got a few more minutes. And then we'll pick this back up around right here. Where are we going to pick this up at? Tomorrow. We will pick it up right here at the 4-hour and 12-minute mark. My bad. We'll pick it up right. So he's almost done with this witness. And then we'll be done with him too. And then we'll pick it up for witness number 2 and finish up day 1 tomorrow. We might get into day 2 if you guys want to. And then, it'll be early. So if if you come in later, it's okay. You can just slide back. Okay. But we'll just finish up this little piece. I'm gonna let y'all go. Okay.
To the area?
Yes.
Was right after.
Oh, and tomorrow morning I'll read the indictment. I pulled the indictment off the website, so I'll read the indictment to y'all in the morning. So we'll do that, and then because we always need to, You know, Bougie Gang, we like a receipt and some details. Okay.
The Rashard Brooks incident the next morning, we were already at work constantly around 16 hours a day dealing with the riots that were going on at Marietta and COP.
And how many times thereafter, do you have notes to indicate how often you went after that first appearance?
We were down there daily, passively monitoring just to see the goings and comings and things of that nature, trying to passively monitor the crowds through basically non-engagements just to see what's going on, generally to report back, because we were running a joint operations center at the time, at police headquarters, monitoring all the unrest in the city.
And I guess I'm asking specifically about you rather than the collective we. About how many times were you present?
Present at their location?
Yes.
I was present at their location generally going back and forth between COP and Marietta at least 2 to 3 hours a day in different time frames.
And when you would be there, isn't it fair to say that I think you testified to police, correct me if I'm wrong, that there were many people carrying long guns, correct?
Yes, they would show up at different times. We had different incidents out there, including a couple of gunfights. We had an officer assaulted, and several different people just hit with random gunfire.
But now, as we move closer to July 4th, were you still going to the area then?
Yes, still randomly when I was at work, we were still tasked with monitoring everything that was going on, reporting back.
Now let's talk specifically about July 4th. Isn't it fair to say that there were kids and families out there as well, correct?
Yeah, there's some people brought their kids out there. Some people brought their families out there. Even some people went so far as to set up stands selling T-shirts and barbecue.
Right. People were cooking out. People were living in tents, correct?
Yeah.
Did you notice the garden out there as well that people had set up?
They set up many things out there. I wouldn't call it a proper garden, but they set lots of things up there.
But generally, talking about July 4th, that was a more festive atmosphere, correct?
I would not be the person to call any of that stuff that was going on out there during that time frame festive.
When you say you would not be the person, I guess you have.
I would not use that term as being festive. Because generally when I refer to something being festive, it's not next to a burned down restaurant as being festive.
And children in the streets doing cartwheels, that don't qualify as festive in your opinion.
That's the opinion of whoever parents brought them out there. I wouldn't bring mine.
Well, you are entitled to not bring this out there, correct?
Like I say, that's everybody's personal right as a parent to bring, each parent judges where they would bring their child at. But, I can't be the one to say this parent was correct for bringing their child or not correct.
And there was also, again, fireworks as well happening that evening, correct?
Yeah, people were shooting fireworks also.
You ever been to a block party?
Many.
This was sort of like a block party.
I would not call this a block party.
You wouldn't call it festive or a block party, right?
No, I would not.
Now, you indicated something about the COP.
What? in Olympic Park Drive, by the CNN Center.
Okay, and you said you were in that area as well?
Yes, we were monitoring both areas.
Okay. Now, and talking about the many people there who had long guns, there were no arrests of those people with long guns just for carrying those long guns, correct?
Not that I'm familiar with.
Are you familiar with the term autonomous zone?
Yes, I'm familiar with the term autonomous zone.
But
I do not recognize the authority of an autonomous zone.
Well,
as a police officer.
Well, with that zone being autonomy, isn't that almost indicative of there not being authority?
Well, not being authority was still in the city, but authority was ordered out of the area.
And you didn't like that, did you?
Not particularly.
So someone above you ordered that there be no police presence in this area at particular times. Isn't that correct?
I'm gonna object to hearsay as well as speculation.
That is a question.
Can you reframe the question?
Police were ordered not to be in that area, correct?
Yes.
And the term autonomous zone, that is a zone that was given to that area by law enforcement, correct?
I wouldn't say because you could pull police out that it was given to someone.
So even if there were police there, they were pulled out.
Yes.
No further questions.
Any redirect?
Very briefly,
Okay.
you talked about other areas that you had monitored or were monitoring on across. Did you also respond on that same day, July 4th of 2022, the Edgewood Auburn Avenue area where shooting occurred?
Yes.
And in relation to the shooting and death of Secoriea Turner, was that after that occurred? If you can recall?
I think so. That day was kind of chaotic with shootings all over town.
How that be further on?
Okay, any recross?
I have no more questions for you. Thank you, sir.
All right, thank you.
Okay.
All right, thank you.
Actually, can he be excused or do you need him later?
Yeah, we can be excused.
Okay, thank you.
I have no objection, Your Honor, either.
Okay, thank you. Thanks for your testimony. Okay,
No, I'm good. Going back to training.
okay. Thank you. Okay, members of the jury, here's one surprise. We're being moved down to 1D. This courtroom is crowded. There are a couple tech issues. So we're going to be in still a different courtroom after your lunch break. We're going to move everything down there, including some of the equipment back in the back, because it's a much larger, fancier courtroom than mine, but your jury room's a little smaller. So we'll bring down microwaves and a refrigerator so that you have those and can count on those. So do we have instructions for where they should report after lunch?
I get one thing.
Good, okay. So Deputy Earl will escort you out and we'll let you know.
Okay, so they're getting ready to break for lunch and all of that, and we're gonna pick up tomorrow at the 4-minute, like 12 mark, 4:13. So yeah, it looks like they're in the courtrooms that we've seen. I don't know if that's whose courtroom that is, but it looks like the same courtroom that Judge Dunaway, but I'm sure they have numerous courtrooms in this fashion. But in any case, this is where we're gonna pick up tomorrow morning, okay? So you guys have a good night. This is crazy. It looks like the defense is trying to blame the city for not being able to handle every person. If you've got a city of 1 million people and you probably have a police force of a few, I don't know how many thousand, there's no doubt that there's more people than there are officers. And unfortunately, I guess it just was a time where it was I'm kind of in shock that this happened. I'm so sad that this little girl died because of all of the unrest that happened. Something kind of, triggered the city in a bad way. And, based on what the police officer said, it sounds like it was just out of control, nothing that they could really do. So it's really sad that she ended up getting the bad end of that. Her mom, so young and so sad, no matter her age, but she just seems, like a young woman, and oh, so sad. And I don't know if that was her only child at that time, but very, very, very sad. So, but in any case, this guy turned himself in as one of the people of interest. And I mean, what did he think was going to happen? They were going to give him a cookie for turning himself in? Anywho, I'll catch y'all in the morning. And like I said, I'll read the indictment. I think we heard what he's standing trial for anyway, but we'll get into the indictment a little bit real quick. And then we'll finish up this because it looks like we're going to get to see some video, see what they're talking about. There's lots of witnesses. So Shawn Hoover's going to get up and probably, yes, Shawn Hoover's going to get up and show his behind again. So, okay. All right. You guys have a good night and I'll see y'all tomorrow. Don't skip ahead. It's 11:09. Don't skip ahead and I'll see y'all in the morning. Bye guys with some coffee. Okay. Take care. You guys have a good night.